Hello, and welcome to Rallying the Forge. I'm your host, Sol. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Rallying the Forge. Today's episode is going to be kind of special. I'm going to be recording bits and pieces of it. I'll be splicing it all together. This will be my first video that I'm splicing a Rallying the Forge video together, but I'm going to be doing bits and pieces of it because I will also be live streaming parts of it. So we are going to be doing that. We'll have live stream portions, and then I'll also be having other recorded portions for other parts of the video that I'll be putting together. So pretty cool for me anyway, but thanks for being here and watching this. We're going to start off with looking at a new spreadsheet that I'm building. Going to debate where it's going to go, what I'm going to do with it, whether it's something I release separate or if I try to see if we can't include it in the collection manager. But I know there's a lot going on with the collection manager at the time, so it's probably not the right time for that, but we'll see. That's a whole side thing, doesn't need to be discussed here openly. But yeah, so I'll be showing that some data from set 4. We'll briefly talk about that, and then I'm going to be opening up boosters on stream. I'll of course be recording afterwards the decks that I found interesting, that I feel like are worth talking about in a video, like I did other boosters that I opened in previous videos. So let's jump into the spreadsheet and then we'll get to the boosters. All right, so as you can see, I have the collection manager open, and as part of that, how it'll tie in is you can pull your collection in the collection manager, right? And then what I do with my sheet currently, if it ties in the collection manager at some point, it'll just be built in because it's right there. Otherwise, you have to move it to this other sheet that I'm going to have. So I basically moved it over. You can see that it's there. If you don't know how to do that, you go here and you hit copy to, and then you'd have an existing spreadsheet. You'd find your name for it and send it over, or you can copy and paste it in a new sheet and just name it collection manager. Whatever works for you. Copying pasting worked better for me. Moving it over took a long time because I have a large collection. So smaller collections may work easier. Larger collections may just want to copy paste. That worked perfectly for me. So nonetheless, I've got all of my decks and on my son's account as well on here. So we have 2,763 decks. I'm approaching Namrog and Nathis status. So maybe after tonight's opening of another 100 decks or so, I'll be that much closer. So the reason why you need this in here is because we are going to pull data from here, reading all these cards. This was just the easiest way for me to think of how to do this. So basically for the set 4 creature data, I made fields. So what I was doing, I guess I should explain what I was doing. So I complained in Discord on the SolForge server that I felt it's hard to find an Alloyin deck that I like because there's so many what I call bland creatures with no abilities or useless abilities, more or less. And Alloyin just seemed to have more, in my opinion. That's how it felt. So I don't know if it's Nick Fletch who responded about it and felt that it should be pretty even. In the grand scheme of things, it's pretty even, but over large sums of decks, it's a big gap. So let me zoom in here. Let me do that. That's pretty good. Okay. So you can see I've got them by faction, of course. I've got what you call bland creatures. There's 3 per faction, so there's 12 total. Just on those, not with their forged modifier attachment, it's just the creatures. So it's like soldier, guard, Terrapath, etc. So in my, I have, was this 211 set 4 decks in our account. This is how many bland creatures are in for that faction. Okay, and this can count betrayer ones, so it's all 12, whether, you know, if they betray into the faction, they count for that faction. You can see the total decks per faction, and then this gives us our average per deck. And you can see Alloyin is the highest for just having those bland creatures, which means they're going to get one of these forge modifier words. And we have another tab which you can rank them good, bad, or indifferent, is how I decided to do it. And everyone has their own opinion, so you can organize this however you feel once you have access to it. I have all the forge modifiers listed here. I have their plus or minus stats and a general description of what text they give, if they give something. I wasn't going to go in great detail with it. I was just trying to quickly see, because the stats do matter for people. So if you're, you know, yeah, you can go by the ability they give and think it's great, but then, like, for example, I looked at Blastin', which you can see here. I was like, okay, Blast 1, 2, and 3, it's kind of neat. You know, certainly can be good with decks that blast a lot or have, what's his name, Lindworm, or whatever his name is, to give the extra damage. I don't know if it's Lindworm or another guy, but nonetheless, whatever guy gives the bonus to blasting, that can be neat. However, he's losing 1, 2, and 3 in his stats, which I didn't realize. You know, I knew there's always a cost to having these abilities, right? But I didn't think about it, and I was like, I almost would rather just have the stats, which would make them just a reliable creature, and not have the blast. Because he does blast once, his stats are forever. If he doesn't get blocked, that's 3 extra damage. The first time, it equals out. The second time, you're ahead. So, not to mention, if he lives after being attacked with that 3 extra health, that's a bonus. So there's multiple ways to look at it. So what I did was, let me switch screens here. So I've got in the SolForge Discord going on right now for another 17 hours. I've got some polls up. The most recent one I put up was, are any of these creatures always good in a set 4 deck? These are all 12 of the bland creatures is what I'll call them, but basically creatures that have no text. So I can only put 10 per poll, so there's 2 polls. If you like either one of these, you can do that. I haven't voted for any of them, so it doesn't show the results, but I can see the results by hitting that. So if you scroll up from there, and I have a link in the SBE general chat from earlier today. I've got 3, because we had 28 modifiers in set 4, and so I have 3 polls, and you can vote on all or none, whatever you want, on each modifier that you like. If there's one you don't like, you don't have to vote for. If you like one, vote for it. And then I was going to use this to determine which ones are good, indifferent, and bad. So right now, bad is no votes. Indifferent is it doesn't hit above the average. So I take the total votes divided by the 28 modifiers, and then anything that's above that average is going to be considered good. If it's above 0, it'll be indifferent. If it's 0, it'll be considered bad. So vote, and participate in that if you feel like it. But that's on the SolForge server in the general discussions, and I'm going to use that as my baseline for how I set the sheet up. Of course, once you have access to this, whether it's through this sheet or if it's through the collection manager one day, you'd be able to change where the modifiers land. You can move them however you like. And then what you would do with this one is you would run the script, and it'll pump out the data based on your collection manager tab. So you can pump in your collection, or if you have, you know, a list of tons of collections of set 4 decks, you can bring them all here. It don't matter to me. But you can see, obviously, the more data points, the more to the mean or to the true number we should get. So that's how that works. And for how I have it set up is based on what is in the chat right now, roughly. I went through it not too long ago to make sure I was up to date. Back to Chrome. So, like I said, you can pull, you just hit that button, and then it'll update this based on that. And then I have a second table over here where it's going to show the modifier name and the faction and how many of those you have in your decks for set 4. So you can see. Oh, I haven't run it yet. Let me do that. Let me zoom out. Make sure I'm at 100%. Let me run it because I just added. See if it crashes on me here. I added a total field. I was curious about that. It did not add it. Or maybe it will afterwards, I don't know. No? Okay. Something. I'll fix that later. So I was going to have a total field down here to show how many forged modified creatures you have. So let me zoom back in to explain this table here. Basically, you shouldn't have anything unknown, but it's a catch-all in case something is bugged out. You will need, on the collection manager, you will need the colors there. I know sometimes when it pulls in, it leaves it as a white background. I don't know why. So you'll need the colors for the set. It's the only way to get the set through the collection manager. Nonetheless, so like I said, total of these bland creatures, how many decks, average per deck. Alloyin is the highest. They have the highest concentration of these creatures with no text. So then we have good modifier on those creatures. This is going to be based off of this category here. So you can see Alloyin in all of my decks, the 52, only 8 have a good modifier. Tempys also only has 8. Nekrium 27, Utera 15. So they're going to subtract this amount from the total bland creatures and give you a new average. So that means you're going to have, these are the average of indifferent or bad modifiers, essentially, in these decks. And Alloyin is the highest. Nekrium is the least, which is still something people have said, like Nekrium's still the best. It's definitely one of the stronger factions in the set. I feel like Alloyin's still the worst. So then the next two groupings here are just counting the modifiers based on if they're in this good category or the bad category. It will count how many of these total good modifiers you have in the decks. You can see Tempys has the fewest, Nekrium has the most. It gives you an average of how many of these good modifiers you're going to have per deck, or that you do have per deck in your collection. Same for the bad modifier. I didn't do one for indifferent, but maybe I can add that or do that if, I don't know. I just felt like good and bad's all that truly matters for this purpose here. So you can see bad modifiers. Tempys is the highest, and Utera actually is the lowest. Necrim is the second highest. So, and again, that's all based on these categories here. And then you can see, I'll zoom out a little bit so it's on one page maybe. There we go. You can see the modifiers. You can see the red ones are the bad ones based on that column. And you can see Tempys has 1 bad, 2 bad, 3 bad, 4 bad, 5 bad categories. Each faction has 11 categories of these modifiers. And then obviously some of them they all share. There's 3 of them that they all share. So that's going to impact their numbers, obviously. They've got right off the bat, what was that, 5 bad ones out of 11. Half of them are bad. And then they've only got 6 that could be good or indifferent. And I don't know from this list what's what, but you know, the rest of them it's a small amount that are in the bad category. But this one you can tell blue is indifferent, green is good. So if you look how many Tempys has good, it's got 1, 2. It's got 2 categories of good modifiers. 2 out of 11. And the ones with zeros probably mean, well, obviously I don't have it, or it can't betray into that maybe. Or I don't know. I'm not sure. Well, I guess, yeah, like Vitalized would only be Tempest, so any betrayed into Tempest would have Vitalized, would count for Tempest, so that's right. So the zeros really just mean that those factions can't have it. So it's just an interesting look. I do feel there's other cards in Alloyin. So there's the Gadgeteer and Leapbot in particular. Leapbot has mobility, and the Gadgeteer has armor. And while, yes, those are abilities like Breakthrough or Stealth, they're just like the mobility portion. Mobility is... it has more use now with set 4. However, it's still a specific deck archetype that you'd be building where you want to utilize mobility, where it's something that is awesome to have. Breakthrough is always good to have. Mobility, not as much. Armor, it's okay to have. Normally, creatures get penalized for armor with their health, so it's kind of a trade-off. Yeah, you get the armor back each turn, but so it's kind of, it doesn't really add value in a way. And then it's good when you have an armor-centric deck, but there's very little archetype with Alloyin right now where armor is going to be key. You can make some combinations, and you know, don't get me wrong, but it's very niche. And so both of those creatures I could add to the creature count. It's going to increase Alloyin's numbers even more. I don't feel the other factions have that problem. Like even Tempest with Aislinn, she has mobility, but then she also, when she moves, pumps up creatures adjacent to her. So there's value there with the mobility. Leapbot just can move 4 lanes. Whoop-de-doo. Like, I'm glad he can move across the board, but he's not knocking anyone out with his power. His power level's not so high that, like, you've got to block him or he's going to, you know, take a chunk of your life. He's just an average creature. So it's... if his value's sunk into having mobility 4, it kind of sucks. And then you've got, in my opinion, it's probably one of my favorite abilities, Forge modifiers in this set, and it's vicious. You have it only in Necrium and Utera. You had Charge Plated with Alloyin. Why couldn't they get vicious? Like, I don't know. The vicious modifier is better than Charge Plated the way it's templated. in my opinion. And then, you know, Utera has... I'm trying to think. They have the Velocis, Terrapath, and the Fortarex. All three of them, I think, are good bland creatures. Terrapath is huge at level 3, no matter what version you get of him. The Velocis lacks on the hit points, but has really strong attack. Combine that with being able to give it breakthrough through the Verdant Watch. That can be dangerous. So it's not like you're not super sad to see it. Maybe it's not the perfect card you want to see, but it's also a dinosaur, which could lead to some other synergies for decks. And then the Fortarex also is a dinosaur. It has huge health, so it could stick on the board with augments now. You can easily pump it up more. It's not my favorite bland card. You know, Terrapath is probably my favorite of the bunch, but you know, it's not horrible. Whereas you look at the Alloyin ones, Guard, Soldier, and forgetting the name of the other one, but I don't like them. They're not big. They just feel kind of average. Oh, it's Circuitist. That's right, Circuitist is the other one. I don't know. And then you look at like Necrium, and if we go to the Discord, so I voted Bubbler and Ogre. I haven't decided if I'm going to vote Flesh Fiend or not. But those are the 3 Necrium ones, and they have. I'm just one vote, but other people, 2 people voted for Flesh Fiend, and then Ogre has 7 and Bubbler has 4. Terrapath surprisingly only has 2 so far. Velocis only has 2. So Fortarex has none, which I'm surprised, and Snowman, which is just like Fortarex. Circuitist is similar to those. Those 3 are all similar, but so Ogre and Bubbler, though, so far people like. They don't mind having a version of it in their deck. So Necrium has bland cards people like. So it just all compounds into this whole thing here. So that's my sheet. I'll probably screenshot this and post it up in Discord somewhere for people to see who aren't watching or don't watch my video. But yeah, I wanted to touch on. I've been wanting to do this. I finally did it. Got the numbers, and of course I'll have another like 70 some decks or 60 some decks after I open my boosters today. So once I pull all that data in, I can rerun this and see if the numbers change or not. It'll be interesting. So yeah, we'll see, and maybe over time I can expand this and do set 3, set 2, set 1, and make a list of this. I don't know how many there are in each set. If they're massive, maybe not, or maybe I don't know. But yeah, and I have on here, so reliable with the stats using the Flesh Fiend stats. It's basically the new combat tactician. So but you can see the stat changes. I initially used a different card to get the numbers, and then I went back and tried to check against the Flesh Fiend once I saw Ankh mention it, but I didn't want to go back and check every single one. Alright, now that we're done with the set 4 bland creatures spreadsheet stuff, let's look at the decks that I pulled aside. I ended up opening 9 boosters. So 36 decks, and I got 6 decks here, so that's 1/6. It's a low percentage. No Alloyin, 1 Tempys, 2 Necrium, 3 Utera. So But I'm probably also being more critical because as we learn more about the set, we're only looking for certain things. There were some decks that was borderline interesting. Even some of these are kind of borderline interesting, but it is what it is. That's how it works. You buy decks, you get some that are good, you get some that are bad. Unfortunately for Alloyin, I think Alloyin is going to be once again bottom of the set. They've not been able to figure Alloyin out. So we'll start with Utera here. This deck is a Dark Forge deck. Forgeborns are kind of whatever. If I'm making a deck, I'll find the Forgeborn I need between the two decks. Obviously, preferably if I have something that needs a certain thing, then but it's not as important right now. This has the Blasphemous Tangle Sprout, which I think is a great card in this set. Is one of my favorite Dark Forge cards. It's just so good being a defender. You deal the damage and give an enemy creature -/-. It's funny because the original version you just activated and gave one of your creatures +2/+2. This seems so much better for some reason. I really do not know why. It just does. And with it being defender, it can be hard for your opponent to kill. If you have certain abilities like this one has Enraged, you can protect it with other creatures. It also has the Vita Sprout, which is nice to gain some health. So I have another deck that's similar to this. It has the Tangle Sprout, has the Vita Sprout, has the Nature's Abundance, which also you toss on one of these two defenders, and now you're getting health at the end of every turn. Now, Pyrax can be a problem. However, you probably want to have methods to take care of him. But so the Tangle Sprout, we got the Nature's Abundance, Enraged to protect them, Vita Sprout. This has a Terra Path, which is always huge at level 3, so that's a bonus. Decay Dryad is really nice. You're both losing health as you play creatures. Then when you get to level 3, it just does damage to the opponent. If you're at 20 or less than 20, this gets +10, has breakthrough, so it can still be a big creature, a problem, and every creature you play, 3 damage to the enemy player. So normally when playing these types of decks, I've seen, at least with Dark Forge, when one player's playing a Dark Forge deck, you're both going down slowly, maybe you a little bit quicker than the opponent, but you're never terribly too far off, or it feels that way. So I like that the farther you go with this, I just think it's really good. I think they really did a good job with the Dark Forge decks and their implementation for the most part. Some are stronger than others, obviously, certain cards in particular, but it is what it is. Also within this deck, you have a Warped Velocis. So Warped helps you bring your health down. So mostly I like to pair Dark Forge with Dark Forge. So this one here does a lot of damage to myself. I want another pair that wants to hit certain thresholds for health. Like a Cacklebones wants you to be 40 or less health, then it starts destroying stuff. 40, 30, 20 or whatever it is. So maybe that's a pair for this type of thing, right? But Warped Velocis is nice because you do 3 damage a turn. Can also be used with cards like the Voidplate Yeti. Very helpful with that. But Warped gives plus stats to the creature. So obviously you have to pay 3 health every turn. However, the stats get big. And a 22/9 level 3 is really nice. Putting that out with the Terra Path. What do they do? So I definitely like everything in this deck except the Glow Drone, but he can help gain life if you need it in a pinch. You also have Noxious Cloud to gain life, and I like it, giving the enemy creature minus health. So I like that. Hunting Hour readies your exhausted creatures, and you gain life for creatures in play, and then you can use your Tangle Sprout and Vita Sprout again. Really nice. So I really like everything in the deck. The Sunder, yeah, we'll see. maybe get a different Blighted Forgeborn, different combination of the spells and order or whatever with whatever deck you decide to pair it with. I want to compare it to the other one I have because I did very well with that half, and I feel like I played it against Crimson the other night, but I'm not positive. I think I won with it, but yeah, I love this. I think it's nice. It's kind of a passive aggressive type deck. Sitting there being a defender, you're not really putting much pressure on them with your creatures. The Dryad maybe, because when you play a creature, you're hitting both of you. The Terrapath isn't anything big. The Warped Velocus is decent sized, so you might be using that to take out one of their bigger guys. But they also might not want to take it out because they want you to take that 3 damage every turn. The Glow Drone's probably not something you're playing, so you don't really have a lot of threats. They're going to be coming at you, and they're thinking probably open lane, hitting you, not thinking about your defenders, and then your defenders start picking their guys off, and they've got no board, and then you're dropping your big Terrapath or your level 3 Velocus, and they don't have answers. So I just love it. Plus, if you're gaining all this health back, your health is up, their health is down, and I just really like it. So really, really like this deck. I will be comparing it to my other one that's very similar to it. Then we have Shadows Saving Captains. So this deck was interesting. I don't know that it's not perfect by any means, but it was intriguing enough. It's got a Blighted Circe. So again, Forgeborn abilities, not terribly important overall. I'll find a pair that has whatever I'm looking for. I'll use whatever it's got. Right now it's about the cards. So Decay Dryad, we just talked about their utility. Descendant Biologist, maybe the best Darkforged card in the set. This pumping out minions every turn and pumping them and pumping whatever you previously had out if it didn't die. If you get 2 of them out there doing it, it's crazy. You can fill a board up and start getting them huge quickly, and they need to... most decks don't have enough answers to be able to handle that unless they can get rid of him immediately. You have an emboldened Velocus, so it gets breakthrough, which is wonderful for it. It has a high attack, super low health. It does have some armor, but the low health is super concerning. It only has 4 armor and health total at each level, but breakthrough can make it useful in many, many ways. So not a bad card. It has Kalthor Silvercoat for Beast. For any beast that you have, it has Mimic Worm, which is Beast. So that is potentially useful if somehow your board's empty, don't have the Biologist, can't fill it up. You can drop Mimic Worm, well, level 3 Mimic Worm with a level 3 Silvercoat and pump them all up, and you'd have 3 10/10s on the board suddenly with Kalthor sitting there as well. This deck has Rotting Arboreus, which I do like. I think it's intriguing. I don't think it's a great card, but I think it's an intriguing card. You get down 10 health or less, you get this in your hand, assuming they don't have removal type stuff. This is a wonderful card to drop and get to 100. You're putting pressure on them. You can block their biggest threat, or if you're on Forge, you're going to kill them. So it's really cool. I like it as a, oh crap card and just a Hail Mary type play. So I just like it. I think it's such a cool card. The original version having 50 or more health at this cycle is like you're already in good position if you got 50 health in cycle 3. But rarely does anyone have that much, or they're playing a life gain, but most of those decks didn't have a good Arboreus with it. So this is cool. It makes the card, you're going to be able to see the 100 more often, I think. And it's intriguing. It's just a nice card to have in there. It's not by any means the best card. It's cool. And if you get to go off, that's fun. That's a fun way to win. Horrible way to lose. Verdant Watch, my favorite augment probably, at least in Utera. Gives breakthrough, but your Arboreus has breakthrough. Your Velocus has breakthrough. So your Dryad at level 3 has breakthrough. So you might not be using it with any of these creatures, whatever you're pairing it with, perhaps. Or you could use it with the Vicious Bee, who has mobility and is also huge. That's really a nice combination. Normally the Bee I'm not big on, but having mobility with the Vicious is cool. So you have this threat. You have the Velocis as a threat. You have Arborus potentially as a threat if you're lucky. You can fill board with Biologist or fill board with Mimic Worm. There's a lot of options out here. By the way, the Bee is a beast, so Silvercoat works. Kelthor works with the Bee. I feel like it has a lot of dangerous cards in it. It just needs to be able to survive until it gets to that point. Spell-wise, it's kind of weak in that regard. It does have Fungal Curse, but it can help keep things back, can protect cards in certain situations, losing printed abilities in Defender. If they have augments, it can destroy augments. So level 3 is all enemy creatures, so you can potentially push all of their cards back. It's really nice. And then Roots of Rebirth, underdrop, and dropping Oak Fathers. And so even if you have an empty board because Biologist wasn't out there, you didn't get your Mimic Worm Silvercoat combo, you got Roots of Rebirth in cycle 4. Now you've got all Oak Fathers out there. So lots of ways to fill the board. I think this deck has potential and just needs a good pair with it. Preferably one that's probably got at least 4 spells. It's hard to get 4 spells or above in set 4, it seems like. 2 to 3 seems to be the average, honestly. So it's kind of disappointing. I wish it was closer to 3 to 4, be better balanced, but it is what it is. So spells, it's okay. It's not great by any means, but finding a really good half for this could really make this thing shine. I like the options here, and I just think Biologist, even on its own, is such a strong card. If they can't get rid of it for some reason, or you're able to pump it up and keep it alive, whatever it is, it's bad news. It's bad news. So I liked this deck. I thought it was pretty cool. The third Utera deck is another Darkforge deck. So we have a Blighted Sunder. Has Dark Flame at cycle 4. It's late, but I think it's still very good because it gives you a lot of time to build up those spells. So it can almost become a win condition on its own at that point. And I know I had a deck with Dark Flame at cycle 4 in a sealed event, and I got to cycle 4 at least twice, popped it off, and I don't think I killed my opponent either time with it, but they were so far ahead in health, I brought them down to my level and ended up winning with it, with other things, because I brought them down to my level in health. So, sorry, my eye. I don't mind it. It's late, but this deck has 5 spells, and some of them are augments, so you're going to want the opportunity for those to fall off potentially and get into your banish pile. So the deck has a Clerical Tracker. So Tracker on its own is already considered a solid card, but adding Clerical to it so you gain health every time is just icing on the cake, just the cream on top. This deck also has a Biologist, so we already just talked about that, how strong that can be. It's got a Groma Bright Tusk, so it has the potential to put minions out there. I don't know that... I haven't really played with Groma. I haven't seen it really go off necessarily. I don't know that it does go off, but it has the potential to put more minions out there for the Biologist. You have the Rotting Arborus. We talked about that as well, so that's just another card in there. Then you have the Pterodon Mauler. Kind of about this card, but it's not bad. You replace a creature, deal the damage to you, which you want as a Darkforge deck typically, and then you get the pump because you damage yourself. You can pump one of your creatures 2/2, and he still needs to be blocked, or otherwise he's going to keep pumping stuff. So there's a level there with him. I'm not big on the creatures in this deck. The Biologist is great. The Tracker's okay. Bright Tusk, so. but it flows. It goes with the synergy, in my opinion. Arboris and Mauler, not so much, but time will tell, I suppose, if I make a deck with this. Spell-wise, Acidic Pit, I like that. That's come in super handy actually in some of my matches. I'm kind of surprised how much value it's had for me. Call of the Forest, so minion themed. This goes with that. You're playing a minion and you put on something. Now you're playing another minion at the end of the turn. You do Biologist with this card. It's gonna get nasty. So I'm not necessarily saying put this on the Biologist, but having it on another creature with the Biologist out there pumping out minions, you're gonna have a full board in a couple turns that they're gonna need to deal with, or you're gonna just be pumping all those minions up. So Channeling Axe, you can put this on something, give a creature type +2/+2 for the level 1 here. Spirit comes to mind, Wisps, Oak Fathers. So you can pump all of your creatures even more. Noxious Cloud, of course, some life gain. Enemy creature gets minus health. That can be useful. I feel like it can get really strong and help save creatures from certain death. And then Uteran Loyalty, of course, if you've got a couple Wisps out there, this is free, and you can pump something. So I really, really like the synergy in this deck. Arboris could be a Hail Mary at the end of the match if you're low on health, if you've leveled it all the way through, or if you find a way to be able to upgrade stuff, depending on what you put this all together with. And the Mauler, he might be the worst creature of the 5. Bright Tusk is right there with it, I feel like. But at least they have synergy with the minion stuff, so we'll see how that all plays out. But interesting deck for sure, and not really surprised that all 3 were Darkforge decks. They seem to have, I don't want to say they have the best balance, at least Utera Darkforge decks have some of the best Darkforge creatures. So, all right, Necrium. We have a Nyx deck here. Necrokinesis, reanimating a Necrium creature. I didn't even pay attention to that when I talked about this deck on stream. So you can reanimate a Necrium creature, but this deck will start with the key things here. KC Kid with Soul Scourge Grimgaunt and Endless Hunt. So either way, you have the potential, once you have level 2 out there, to reanimate a Grimgaunt from your banish pile back into play after combat. And so if a bunch of creatures are destroyed, he's going to come out huge. Endless Hunt, if he's on the board and he's going to kind of die, he'll be able to come back again after creatures have died, and he's going to get a big buff. So I love that. I hadn't had an Endless Hunt and Soul Scourge Grimgaunt deck until this, and it also has KC Kid. I did have a KC Kid and Grimgaunt deck, which I think I put something together for it, but yeah, pretty cool right there. And like I said, Nyx has Necrokinesis, so we can reanimate a level 1 Necrium creature if we play this Forgeborn. Other cards in the deck, we have a Siphoner, so that can be useful. Duplicitous Flesh Fiend. Again, if you have stuff to sack for it with stealth, that's what you need to do with Duplicitous. You need to do that anyway to get the value back that you lost by having that that forged modifier. We have this augment here, the Wit. We have the Harbinger, another augment. And then we have a Temperamental Plague Bearer. Probably the only card out of this deck that I'm not big on. But he could have utility if he can sort of chump block something, live, and then you blast him the next turn, then it's okay. Or you just use him to sack for something you might need for like Duplicitous or something and just get him off the board if he's not useful and you had to play him. Other spells, Forbidden Rite. I'm not super big on this card, but it is nice because you can upgrade a card in your discard pile. So if you missed something, you have a chance to get it upgraded anyway. So that is nice. And then Vampiric Hunger, of course. Love this card. This is a great augment. So plenty of augments in this deck. A lot of reanimation going on here. A lot to like with the deck, I think. So it's got, like I said, 3 augments. So possibly pairing it with something that wants some augment action would be good. But yeah, I like the deck. I think it's got potential. I'm excited to see Endless Hunt and Soul Scourge Grimgaunt ruin people's days. KC Kid bringing back the Grimgaunt as well. This could be... Is this level gated? No. Nah, but it gets huge. Like, if you... There's no... That's aggressive and stealth. Well, stealth can be good, although then your guy's probably not dying. And you don't have to use this on Grimgaunt to bring him back. You can. But it reanimates a warrior, which Grimgaunt is. So is KC Kid. But any creature. But if you put this with some breakthrough, or you get a card, either the Tempys or Utera cards that give breakthrough as augments, you pop that on some stuff. You know, if you bring back the Grimgaunt, he's huge. Pop one of the breakthroughs on him. And then if they're going to kill him, you Endless Hunt him. He gets that +10 attack. You know, he's going to kill whatever he is going against. Breakthrough, extra damage there. He's going to die, and then you reanimate him, bring him back, and he comes back even stronger. He won't have the breakthrough, but that's really annoying for your opponent. So really exciting to see what we can do with this deck in due time. Another Necrium deck, Nyx Nekia. She has Necrokinesis at level 3. So, again, reanimating creature. Although I don't know that that's the theme of this deck necessarily. This deck has the Duplicitous Water Weaver. So, again, stealth and can get pumped by destroying a creature. So, we're going to need stuff for that. Flesh Eater, Flesh Fiend. This is okay. The Flesh Eater's not bad. Slay getting bonus attack. So if it does live, it's going to get bigger. They're going to need something to take it out, and whatever that's going to be is probably going to die too. So Fuzu's probably one of the best commons in the set. Reliable Strider. So I should mention that those are both warriors. Soul Scourge Grimgaunt again. We did talk about Necrokinesis. He's also a warrior with Verlana Bloodshade, who is a warrior who can use her ability on activate, unlike Cortex Vein from Alloyin, who does the opposite of this, which is attack, but only gets it on deploy. Why? So for warriors, perhaps pairing this deck with another deck with a couple more warriors, and it'll make your opponent's life miserable. Vicious Bubbler. So vicious is it's probably my favorite keyword in the set. I think it's awesome. It is so much better than Charge Plated. The creatures are playable at levels 1 and 2. They're not great by any means, but they're at least playable. And level 3s are awesome. So really like Vicious. I think Vicious is how Charge Plated should have been from the get-go. What I don't understand is why Alloyin didn't get it as one of their keywords, and it only was Utera and Necrium. But, you know, that's what it is. What it is. For spells, this has Necrium Loyalty, which can be free, which is awesome. You have Rite of the Fallen, so we do have some more reanimation. However, for Soul Scourge Grimgaunt, not as useful doing it before combat, but you could bring someone else back like Verlana. And opponents hate that. And then you have Sacrificial Strength. So we don't have a lot for sacrificing. But maybe you pair it with something that will give you some bodies for sacrificing. So, but I do think it's a decent deck. 4 warriors, a vicious creature, reanimation, and a free spell. So I like this one. I think it's decent, and finding a good pair for it could make it, competitive in some fashion. And lastly, we have our Sol Tempest deck, Tundra. So he's got his abilities there. The back row could be useful. You do have defenders in the deck. So, and he also has war drums. They lose defender, get aggressive. So that can be useful depending on what you have here. So we have Frostak, Kraegor, and that's all. We don't have the 4 Yetis. We only have 2. We had a deck that had 3 but was missing Frostak. So Frostak's a very important one to actually make them even more useful by making them be able to attack. Kraegor can make their health be what they're dealing damage with, and they typically have good health. So that is a threat. That combo right there, those two work well together. Then we have Scorchar, kind of an AoE thing. He's kind of on his own type guy. We have Stoic Frostfall, crap card. Vitalized Flameblade, so you can do free spells. It has 4 spells in this deck, so that can be useful if you're on Forge. You draw it off Forge, you at least get the Blast 3, but maybe you don't play it. Maybe you do if you want to level it up. It's questionable, but so that's really timing dependent. And then you have Volterra's Tempest Caller, Defender, which we talked about having defenders. When you play a spell, play up to 1 spell sprite minion, it gets +2. So playing spells and getting spell sprite minions helps fill up the board, depending on what you have going on. If you're opting to not play the Flame Blade and play a spell instead because you're off Forge, so you'd rather play the spell, well, you can get a free minion instead of the Flame Blade, who's a 2/3. You get a 1/4, actually get a 3/4 at level 1 there. A better creature than the Flame Blade if you play the spell. So I do like that. And then the spells are Essence, Unleashed, Betrayer, Botanimate, essentially. But you get to upgrade a card in your hand, which can be very useful. You discard it too, but level 3, I think you keep it in hand. Yeah. So I like this spell. I think it's great. And then Hammerflame, one of my favorite Tempest augments. Blasting, and if you kill the creature, you get Slay. So I talked about this. Obviously, you could put it on something that's in the front row, kill off the creature. If you're off Forge, if you have Frostak, even if you had a guy in the back, you could push them forward. Use this, blast 4. They're going to get +4, +6, +8. And now you have an unblocked guy in the front lane. And it's a lot of damage, right? So you have that. We have Storm Strike. Play a spell sprite minion. Your minions blast. So again, Tempest Caller helping get minions out there. Storm Strike also helping play more minions, and they all blast. That's a really nice synergy there. And lastly, Violent Rampage, a card that needs the right deck to go off with, but it can be devastating. So I gave this example on my stream, but imagine you have level 3 Frostak, who's a 921, and it's your turn. You have Hammerflame level 3, so you play this on Frostak to give him +8. He kills something across from him maybe, and now he gets +8 attack, so he's at 17 attack. And if he slays again, he gets another 8, but nonetheless, you can make him go to the front row, and then you play this on him. One of your creatures gets +8. If it's a Yeti, which he is, it blasts equal to its attack. So now he's at 25 attack. He blasts for 25. If they put something in front of him to block him after you killed whatever was there before, because they know you're bringing him forward, he's going to get another 8 attack, which takes him to 33 after this blast. The 25 blast that he's doing already is going to kill most creatures that they're going to play there and have some go to the player. But he also is going to be 33 attack, which they're going to have to block again. So if you have other stuff on the board, it's going to get through clean, and they're going to take a ton of damage. Or if you're off Forge and they put a blocker there, you're doing this, killing it, he's going forward, and you're doing 33 attack to them, straight to their face. This can be devastating. Now, granted, that's a special lineup. You have level 3 out there. You're drawing the 2 level 3 spells the next turn. Yeah, it's not going to be that way all the time. But there's a chance of it. And, that's definitely one win condition that you can have in the deck. It's not maybe your primary, but when that goes off, that's a lot of fun, unless you're the opponent losing to it. But Voltaris provides you lots of minions. You have plenty of spells to help buff those minions up. Storm Strike, blasting things. So you have Scorchar, who does AoE ping to everything and ignores armor. So you have some synergies here. 2 different kind of paths, in my opinion. You pair this with something that's going to work well with it. Sorry for that mic hit. This deck has its stuff, and you want something that comes in that synergizes with one or the other, and maybe has its own pathway as well. And now you've got some different ways to go depending on how the match works out, what your opponent's playing. Maybe they have a lot of minion hate, so you don't want to go that route this time. But I definitely like it. I think it's got potential. It's definitely something fun enough to make a deck for. This is something my son would have loved to play if he had gotten this deck. But it's on my account, so I get to have fun with it, not him. But, yeah. So that was the last deck of the ones that I pulled out from the 36 that we opened. I think there's some fun things there. There were definitely some other decks that were interesting, but just not enough. You kind of may have to dig to find something to pair it with, and then maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Because I've played so little, because I've been doing so many other things between stuff in real life, and then I've been busy creating spreadsheets or scripts or other stuff, refining things. I've been trying to get videos out of when I do play, the recordings or these videos for Rallying the Forge. I just haven't had time to play a lot. So I'm definitely looking forward to playing in the SolForge Constructed event. And then we have, of course, the qualifier coming up that I definitely want to do well in. Going to be curious to see what everyone's playing. I'm predicting a lot of Pipwick or double Pipwick. I think we'll see a fair share of RC style decks, and of course Necria Mutera, and not just set 1 type decks, potentially other sets as well. Maybe set 3 stuff. I don't know. I think we'll get a good variety. What I'm not expecting to see is any ridiculous Alloyin. That's my prediction for that. So we'll see everything but Alloyin. I think there will obviously be someone playing Alloyin, almost certainly, but I just don't know what's out there that is going to be good enough for people. So maybe someone's holding out on something, they're going to bring it out and it's going to do well. I don't know. We'll be surprised. I mean, Jed won it last time with the Alloyin, so Alloyin Necrim, but I just think with all the new stuff, people are going to be leaning towards playing some set 4, and I think we're going to see a lot of Pipwick in that. Be curious to see what else we see, though. It's going to be fun to see the decks people bring, and the ideas people bring to the table. I'll be definitely taking notes. So I will be streaming both of those events for my matches and recording them, and then I'm also going to be probably opening the last 9 boosters that I was going to open that I didn't open, either Sunday or early next week, because at the end of the week I'll be going out of town for a week. So yeah, it's just busy time of the year. So that's all I have for you. I'm not going to rehash the sheet. We already went through it. I did update it with the new decks in it to see the numbers change, but maybe as I build it out for other sets or whatever else I do with it, maybe I'll touch on it again in another video. But for now, that's all I've got. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and or comment. And I look forward to seeing you guys in game and in chat and wherever we can meet. So thank you and take care, and I will see you guys next time. This has been an episode of Rallying the Forge. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.